It was a beautiful night. Full moon was glowing and shining in the night sky, like a torch to lead the path that otherwise would have been engulfed by the darkness. Stars were pretty, and he came especially there, in the forest, to look at them. The sitting place he chose was not far from highway he came, far from streets, but not that far from the living world, as he knew he could get lost inside the big forest very easily if he went too deep into it. He can still see street lights and hear the faint noises of cars zooming around the curves of the roads. What he didn't expect was what happened after that. He set some fire to have some warmth and made himself comfortable on the ground. Out of nowhere he heard some faint footsteps. At first, he didn't notice anything as he was so mesmerized and was in awe of the expanse of stars above. Then he heard a loud moan which sounded like someone was in pain. He became very aware of his surroundings, confused and curious as he looked around in the forest. He wanted to know the source of it, so he got up and tried to follow and listen to the sound to investigate if someone was in trouble or if it was just some teenager trying to pull up some prank. After a little roaming around, he didn't hear or see anyone else other than himself, so he came back and didn't think much about it. After spending an hour just sitting there, stargazing and appreciating the nature surrounding him, his stomach growled abruptly, breaking the peaceful silence. He chuckled to himself, opened the food he brought, which he had prepared for his small road trip, and took out the sandwich and started munching on it. At that moment, when he was looking down at the foil paper, suddenly he felt a weird bad feeling. He was not able to decipher exactly what that feeling was, but one thing was very clear: whatever he felt was not good. It was definitely creepy. He was being watched. Not that he knew, at least not right at that very moment. He tried to ignore that weird gut-churning feeling, tried concentrating more on chewing and swallowing the food rather than feel the tug of that creepiness that was clutching into his body. If he didn't come back to his senses, he would become a little bit panicky and ruin his whole mood for this little vacation trip. But no matter what he did, he was not able to shrug off that awful sense of something being very wrong. He was becoming nervous, but he told himself that he was just overreacting to his surroundings. But then, out of nowhere, he caught sight of something strange in his peripheral vision. He saw a figure standing a little far from where he was, and strangely, the figure seemed to be hiding behind a tree. He started panicking a little bit, but he forced himself to stay calm and rational. A little hard task to do when you were expecting to be the only human present in the forest, but then finding out that someone else was there, not making others aware of their presence. He just froze there. In whatever position he was sitting, he was desperately trying to figure out if he should just run away or try to know who that person was. He chose the latter and very nervously started to stand up. But as he was in the process of lifting himself properly from the ground, he saw that the figure had moved a little closer to him. Surprise would be an understatement to what he felt at that moment, as now he was able to observe something about that looming figure as it came into his line of vision properly. The figure was of a woman who he didn't know, as he had never seen her before. Not even a minute had passed and some strange activities started happening. She turned toward him, she started bending toward the ground. He was so shook and so surprised that he was not able to move his limbs at all. He just stood there like a mannequin and he didn't even realize that. But the things that happened afterward, he would never be able to forget.